Every Canadian who values freedom of the press should sit up and take notice, because Google just funneled $22.2 million to 108 Canadian news outlets, which may sound like a win for journalism, except that it's more of a corporate power grab dressed up as charity, and it's a direct threat to independent media like Rebel News. Let's dig in. Before we get to the biggest player in all of this, let's look at who's getting some of the big bucks. The Canadian Press, the Globe and Mail, Metroland Media, Post Media, and Black Press Group are some of the biggest players, taking in over $1 million each. Meanwhile, the approximately 100 remaining smaller outlets received less, with most, like Glacier Media Digital Limited, still reaching well into the six figures. But don't be fooled. This isn't about saving journalism. It's about picking winners and losers. And guess who's losing? Well, it's the little guy, the ones who dare to challenge the prevailing mainstream narratives and who are not included in this cozy Google payout club. Case in point, the CBC gets a whopping 7% of the total payout, which translates to roughly $6.8 million. And the totals are only expected to rise. When the collective works out whether any applicant outlets are ineligible, they allow previously earmarked money to flow to the media businesses that meet requirements. While this money comes from Google to dodge the Online News Act, which is a Liberal-imposed piece of legislation here in Canada that's supposed to make tech giants pay for news content shared on their sites, instead of giving a fair fight, Google's writing checks to secure a 5-year exemption, which means 5 years of control. You think that these newsrooms getting millions are going to bite the hand that feeds them? I wouldn't hold my breath.
We announced a series of measures on crime, and we announced a series of measures with respect to online harm and other factors. And one of the observations we had, one of the issues we're dealing with, there's many serious issues that we're dealing with respect to crimes of violence, conjugal violence, drugs, fentanyl, others. But one of them is with respect to really just the sea of misogyny, anti-Semitism, hatred, conspiracy theories, this sort of pollution that's online that washes over our virtual borders from the United States. And that's a mild version of that. That's fine. I can take the conspiracy theory and all that. But the more serious things is when it affects how people behave in our society. When Canadians are threatened going to their community centers or their places of worship or their schools, or God forbid, when it affects our children. So we, my government, if we are elected, will be taking action on those American giants that come across.
This is how you buy silence, compliance, and censorship, and kiss editorial independence goodbye. But wait, it gets worse. One thing that no one is really talking about is how these payments are creating a dependency trap. Newsrooms, especially the smaller ones, are now hooked on Google's cash. What happens when the tech giant changes the rules or pulls the plug? The legacy media is already bailed out to the tune of millions by Canadian taxpayers through subsidies, and Canadians really have no say in their skewed editorial directives and stances. But the Canadian Journalism Collective, which is the group handing out this money, remains poised to skim $2 million off the top for admin fees. $2 million. Talk about a cash grab. And of course, Rebel News is excluded from this cash cow because our repeated applications for qualified Canadian journalism organization status have been denied by a federal court, which upheld a Trudeau-appointed panel's ruling that only 2% of our content qualifies as original news, which is, quite frankly, so bizarre, dismissing our extensive on-the-ground reporting, like that of the 2022 Freedom Convoy coverage that outshone even the CBC, as 98% non-journalistic. Not only is this absurd, but it's a blatant attack on independent voices that dare to challenge the mainstream narrative.
This report is brought to you by...
Let's face it, Canada's economy isn't heading in the right direction. Inflation's eating away your savings, and government debt is out of control. No politician is going to fix that overnight. With Guildhall Wealth, you can hold real, physical gold and silver inside your RRSP. It's a time-tested way to protect your retirement and take back control of your wealth. Call 1-877-8-SILVER or visit guildhallwealth.com/rebel to request your free investor kit. And hey, make sure to mention Rebel News.
So here's the bottom line. This isn't about supporting journalism. It's about control. Google's propping up big media while starving the independent voices that hold power to account. And the public? Well, they're left with less trust in a press that looks more like a corporate puppet show every single day. And therein lies your reminder to support independent media. Subscribe to the outlets that don't take Google's money. Share their stories, because if we let big tech turn our free press into their personal PR machine, we're not just losing journalism, we're losing truth and accountability. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Canada is now one of the most dangerous places in the world for freedom of speech and freedom of the press. There's 4 bills falling like dominoes: Bill C-11, C-18, C-36, and C-63, the Online Harms Act, each one building on the other to build a censorship regime whose only comparison is places like North Korea. If you'd like to help us uphold freedom of the press, please go to stopthecensorship.ca to learn more and support our efforts. That's stopthecensorship.ca.